Okay, hi guys, I'm with Johannes from Avatar to talk about the new album Don't Go in the Forest,
Hmm.
which will be released in October 31st.
Yes.
So thank you, Johannes, for having us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So this is the 10th album of the
Hmm.
band. Like the previous one, is that the best album of Avatar?
Yeah, but I used that so much in that series of interviews that now it feels silly to say again. But of course it is. But more importantly, uh, I guess what I'm more focused on now when talking about it and thinking about it is that feeling of that it's an album we could only do now, couldn't have been done in the past, and also understanding that we cannot do it in a few years anyway. That following the change of who you are and finding something that is interesting to you to do at the time, uh, and allowing that to change over the years, which means that this is the best version of Avatar as we stand right now and as we stood last year artistically and everything. So it feels really this whole sense of snapshot in time when it comes to an album. Uh, and like that, therefore, it's full of things that feels extremely special to where we're at now.
Okay. You said you made an album on what it interests you now.
Mm.
So, what interests you now, and what is about the album?
Well, a lot of that, I would say, is just the process was what interested me in the sense of there's a feeling with every album, right? It's always been as honest as possible. But with every album, there's always a new layer of, well, excuse me, bullshit that you can remove once you have said certain things in a certain way, and try to remove filters. You can always go a little bit deeper, and that kind of came out of the process in the sense that a lot of this was written very intuitively, very driven by the subconscious. I think all ideas, that when you write or whatever, something pops into your head, right? And that maybe, in my case with lyrics, that means 2 lines of lyrics, a couple of words, that it starts there. And then there's this can start in a pretty abstract place, and then you try to make it into something concrete, which can be, your drawings, your paintings, your books, your whatever, your home improvement project, whatever it is. You have something, and you try to turn it into something real. And I think in the past, that abstract idea that I would hurry to try to understand it very quickly. Where did this come from? What is it? What should it become? And this time, I just felt, oh, that's pretty, and I just follow that sense of beauty I feel in whatever. So I didn't need to know what this song was about, because I believed my subconsciousness would know it. And at the end, you go, okay, that's what it was. And a lot of the songs, Take This Heart and Burn It, Magic Lantern, Captain Goats, a lot of the songs came from that place, and to utilize vivid dreams that if not necessarily, because sometimes you dream about something, because something intense in life is going on and it's bothering you when you sleep even, so you dream something very concretely and stuff. But sometimes you just have very vivid but strange dreams. That's yeah, they're always strange, but sometimes they're just strange because they're dreams, and sometimes they're actually strange. What the hell was that? But they're so vivid that they feel real. And I kind of would let myself follow those things with a bunch of the songs. So I was interested in that. And then sometimes topically, I don't know, with Tonight We Must Be Warriors, that was a bit more of a concrete plan once the songs start to come together. Of I always, or not always, but for a long time I felt that the left needs a Manowar song. you know, that you that you know, a fight song, an epic metal tune, but where you use words like warrior, but because I'm a fan, you know, I got into metal and I got into double bass drums because of power metal. And a lot of that is medieval and fantasy, so it's about kings. But I can only sing about kings if Jonas is the king, because then I really just write love songs to my friend, and then I can sing about how great the king is. But I couldn't actually come up with a songs about kings because that's authoritarian government. So there's no way of doing that. And to sing about warriors, as in soldiers, meaning well, you know, I cannot sing about those things without nuance. I can't say go this country against that country, go go go. That's not my thing. Especially no, but especially this time, people choose those kind of sides, and I mean, I certainly choose sides in a lot of the conflicts in the world now as well. I know who I think is in the wrong, and I want Ukraine to be free from Russia and stuff. But it's maybe in the language of, but I wouldn't glorify, elevate a soldier in that heavy metal sense of it. It's certainly, there is a lot of courage and sacrifice there, and a necessary evil when you are invaded to defend, you know, friends, family, and country, and to defend democracy and all that. That is all, of course, super true. But you cannot turn that into that it's amazing to be a soldier. It's very, very sad. So, but I like old heavy metal songs about warriors at the same time. So, so how do I sing about warriors? How do I make an epic metal piece with a big choir and people go whoa and all that? Well, if it is about coming together and finding strength in numbers to really be as many like-minded that you start to become a problem for those in charge, meaning basically it's a song about unionizing, you know, going on strike, and tonight we must be warriors. Again, there's that necessary evil in what needs to be done. So that interested me. Death and Glitz, it's really something perverse happening in media we consume, in that sense that we really like when death has nice tits. I will elaborate. You know, true crime documentaries, podcasts, what kind of news could become big news when it's on about individual tragedy? Everybody, men and women, seem to love when a pretty young girl is killed. And you know, we think we watch it because it, you know, because of the bad guy, but why is it always so many stories about the pretty young girl, and we watch it and you eat your popcorn, you know, and 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 you lick your lips, and there's something perverse there, and I think there's a built-in perversion and misogyny in those things. I also caught myself how I think I've sang enough songs now about a certain putting a hurt woman on a pedestal thing, you know. I'm still proud of Bloody Angel, and I know what I meant with Paint Me Red, but I also see, oh no, like I won't do that again, not in you know. So then I kind of, this becomes then satire instead about, because I think, you know, historically, through reading feministic stuff, I've learned about the whore and the Madonna, the, what do you say, paradox or problem, that a woman is supposed to be both and neither, you know, and you need to be someone's mom and someone's whore, and it's this complicated thing, and that women have to be so damn three-dimensional all the time. But if they're dead, they can be anything. And you can fantasize about maybe you could have saved them or changed them. And, you know, they are very, a dead woman is very obedient, you know, and there's also, and I think also because a lot of true crime is consumed by women. And then I think the perversion from that side of things, that, you know, would be more like you can project yourself on it because that dead woman is so missed and loved and desired. So there's some weird perverse entertainment and self-projection onto it. So, and that is death with great tits. And that is true crime as an entertainment form, and it's just murder porn, and I think it's fucked up. Um, and and that's why I sing in the song, like they love your death and tits. No one more obedient than you. Being a beautiful corpse. So that interested me, and for each song there is some kind of story.
You often said that we will never do the same song twice,
Mm-hmm.
and the album is a proof of that.
Phew, good.
But there is an Avatar sound.
Yeah,
You can recognize.
sure.
How do you define it?
I define it in the way that we write it ourselves and record it ourselves, and we're not talented enough to sound like other people. So I don't need. We might be talented. I have a fair amount of confidence, or at least that I feel comfortable with what we do when we're at the end of the day, what we put together. But we are always stuck with sounding like us, because our fingers go on the guitar where it goes. You evolve a musical DNA and language over the years, and then you try to expand on it, but you can never run away from whatever was the coolest thing in the world when you were 15 and got into it. And I love exploring and finding new things. And already back then I had a pretty wide palette, and we all did in the band with different things we liked. But you always, you go on these journeys, but then you come home over and over again, and whatever you learned to play when you began to practice more and all that kind of shapes you. And also, even more so, whatever sense of melody you have, because whatever children's shows or what's sung to you as a child, or those things that gets fed into you, that the culture you grew up in, there's so many things that a back catalog of stuff that becomes part of your musical DNA as you grow up. So all those things mean that you become, and then the physicality, and especially if you're a singer, but with any instrument, just very evident with a singer, just the shape of my jaw, So I'm stuck with sounding like me. And because of that, and then because of being a massive Beatles fan, a band that were so many things, but I think more than anything, we're curious about learning new things, trying here's a new mixing board. We have 4 channels now. 4 channels. Wow, we can do this, and that. What can we do with that? And went and saw something very avant-garde, in this hip 60s underground scenes, and that fits in a pop song, or classical music. Oh, that sounds nice. Can I put that in my little pop song? Borrowing from all over the place. And that curiosity, but they also, again, they wrote the songs themselves. They played it themselves. And that then shapes that Please Please Me sounds like the Beatles. Come Together sounds like the Beatles, And so in that sense, and I don't think they had to say, George Harrison recorded on all kinds of different guitars. So with that logic, I don't define for myself what we do beyond that, except that Avatar will always be a metal band. If somebody really, really, really wants to switch genre, it would need to be named differently. But everything that's kind of lives in the metal world, then it's Avatar.
Okay, and the album is an Avatar album, but with different songs.
Yeah.
And I found some song more danceable, if I can say,
Yeah.
in the rhythm. Do you want Avatar music to play nightclub?
I mean, I would allow it. There was certainly, I certainly think because that was very much part of an active way of thinking back on Dance Devil Dance. I think when we spoke last time, I'm sure I said this because I said it in a lot of interviews, and that heavy metal, that's a subcategory of rock and roll. Rock and roll is a form of dance music. And at its best, when you have drums and bass in a band, that's rhythm section, that's movement. and especially back then, it was very important then to think like dance music, even if it was a death metal song. And what that many times would mean was that if you do a bossa nova, you don't do samba in the middle. You make a bossa nova song, then the next song can be a samba, one thing at a time. Now I think overall on Don't Go in the Forest, the songs are allowed to take more twists and turns and tempo changes. It's a different form of storytelling, a bit more of a trip we're on with many of the tracks. That kind of wasn't really allowed under the framework where we did Dance Devil Dance. So we commit to different kinds of ideas. You build a new framework. But that being said, I mean, we already touched on Death and Glitz, right? Dum, 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 dum. But it's just, absolutely, people want to dance to that. Please dance, But it's just one of those things of being influenced by making metal, but being influenced by the entire world of music. And so it can be electronic music or jazz, folk music, Schlager, doesn't matter, You can find your little thing in there and take what you need. Yeah.
Okay. And like the cover of the album with the red balloon, the video of Tonight We Must Be Warriors had some cinematic and musical reference. Can you tell us how you work on it and how the ideas came?
Well, with Tonight We Must Be Warriors, all of them is fed out of a discussion that happens a bit, partly slowly over time, and especially conversations with Johan, Kalén, that we do these things with, and then more focus when it's time to actually do that thing. We have a meeting, Johan, John, and myself mostly, who sit and then talk over the video and the ideas and see somebody might already have something, or you just have a seed to something and you kind of talk your way through until you have more. And with Tonight We Must Be Warriors, as far as my contributions initially were, it was that because those first lines, saw you climbing out the window, took a step off of the chimney, that's like, I really like that image. I would like to do that, to float through the air, to step up, to be on the rooftops. And I think that it was then me saying as much as, and I see Peter Pan, I see Mary Poppins, I see old London, I see those kind of chimney tops, and stepping off from that. And I think at that point, Johan's head was already going with the questions of, okay, so where are you going with that? Because I was stuck on that image. So it's hard to talk about, to remember who said who in a long, because then we really start to feed each other's ideas. But I'm pretty sure it's then that was an image and we kind of liked it. He gets it, John gets it, that it's a thing. And then just where are we going? And then I think then it's a lot of Johan with where we just add little things or discuss little things, but the floating island, and that we meet the band there, and that we travel on together, and that whole thing, and the problem solving of putting together a story with questions and answers. That is how Johan has really writes all the script at the end of the, if he had all the ideas or none of the ideas, he's still the one who puts it together. In the distant past, there are a little handful of videos where I wouldn't really make a script formally, but write a long treatment of the ideas, like a short story of this and that and this and that. But now it's always Johan, and practicing that, and he has started to learn also to ask the right questions, to really structure it, and so the little adventure thing. The destination and stuff we probably kind of figure out together, but a lot of the things on the way, it's him. And visually was that thing, Johan loves to do things in 4:3 And we but maybe we want the widescreen look nowadays. We do a lot of 4:3, and then just the technical discussion leads to, but what if it changes? What if we go from black and white to color? What if the screen gets wider? Because this song has couple of points where it builds and builds overall, So use those to literally open what you watch, that it opens up. So that strip was built in there. And then, I mean, we really like a lot of different ways that movies used to look and different technical solutions from an analog era. So we borrow from that. And this time Yuan was really being a total nerd about it. So it's a lot of Wizard of Oz, especially that sepia tone when I'm flying. That is him watching Wizard of Oz and really analyzing the colors to get the same kind of black and white sepia tone to a T. Excuse me. And the black and white before that was based on the Nosferatu movie poster. So he really went into ultra nerd mode about the colorings throughout the videos and the changes, and really have a strong technicolor towards the end and all that. And it's the old movies,
And how did the filming of Captain Goat go, especially the scene in the water? Because at the end of the video, it doesn't end very well for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, everything that I wasn't in the water was one of the most comfortable, chill video we made. Because, I sit on a boat and I fall on a mattress, and my brother plays the goat, so we hung out and it was nice. And we were done early, which never happens. And then I had to go in the water. But it was a fun challenge. There's a bit of pride and machismo that goes into doing weird things for a music video that I like the challenge. I like to see what I can do and figure it out. And it started well enough. It was interesting to just, because you need to have weights for me to stay stable while being underwater. Yeah. And it wasn't even deep. I could stand up and I'm safe. But instinctively, to go into water with something dragging you down, already there psychologically, this is a bit wrong, and therefore be how you have to move just walking in place. And because I really like water and I like being in water, I like to go for a swim, I like to be underwater. But this was something else in that sense. And then it was interesting to just be able to perform underwater, because I go under and try to sing and bubbles look like shit. So to kind of mime and perform while keeping water in your mouth and not push out the air and stuff to make it look good. Yeah, like it was a little learning curve, and it was fine. But then he had a fancy case for his camera that broke, and it started to leak after a few takes, and like, we're screwed. But then a guy we worked with there had like the newest iPhone, and we were able to make a case for that, so we could, and that was high enough quality so that we could use that footage. So we filmed it with an iPhone. But because there were so many auto settings and stuff, then it was a nightmare for you want to make it look even and consistent, just color correction and those things you do after, because it adjusts by itself all the time. And also it lacks depth, and with that little lens, it's not a real camera. But with the limitation caused by the underwater look anyway, we kind of got away with it. So most of that are smartphone shots that he managed to work with. And it started well enough, but, we did I think we have like 3 angles, one further away, one bit close up, one bit from the side. And I had a break between all 3. And when it was time to reach number 3, the chlorine in the ice and everything, at the end, it was miserable that it just wouldn't stop hurting. Because the other times you go down and kind of get used to it, and it numbs the ice a bit. And it's good that I wear this black face paint, because if you look also, the last shots in the video, in the beginning, I can really open my eyes wide. At the end, my eyes are teeny tiny because they're so swollen. Then the redness was hidden by the face paint, so it's fine. And then also the moment of, because I've been there, you dry out, and everything. So then I looked in the mirror afterwards and like, you saw every muscle on me. I looked so shredded from having been in the water so long. Like, hey, that's pretty cool. No, so it was a trip for sure. But yeah, there's a dumb macho thing to get to try these things that I like.
So let's talk about touring now. You will tour in Europe in February and March next year, and you will be in Paris in March the 7th. So what can we expect from the show, and how do you prepare a new show?
The preparation of a new show happens over a long stretch of time, because there we have together with Jimmy Olausson, who was our light tech and then light designer, now production manager and stage designer, who I've known for a long time. You kind of start to talk about an album, talk about songs, we start to talk about ideas for stage, and he has ideas, we have little goals with it, and it happens parallel, and then it starts to, at some point, start to gel, whatever, he starts to hear new songs, and we have, so we can talk about certain things, what they feel like with the new stuff, and then there's a very technical, practical, come up with new cool looks and new cool technical solutions to take it to the next level, and do something we haven't done before that grows over time, and then keep putting together the set list in itself as a composition. Putting together the set list itself becomes a part of the composition, and what kind of journey you want to make, because you can make a set list and a show that for Hunter Gatherer it started small and it increased, just the stage seemed to become bigger, used little light in the beginning, more lights overall, then you had last time was more of a roller coaster of things, and I think this one there's a sense of chapters almost in how it's gonna be. And on top of that, the preparations are outfits changes, all that, and then there is going for a run, lifting weights, singing your scales, doing la da 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 da, practice the songs and all that, and just by doing that with the goal of going on stage, you start to think about the stage, and more ideas comes organically, and then what to expect. They're all those things, the coolest stage build we have ever done, and I will dress fabulously, and we will play all those songs that people want to hear the most, but also the songs they didn't know they wanted to hear the most, and then also a lot of the new stuff, because that's what we do. We care about the new album as much as anything, so we're gonna do that, and finding the right balance between those three categories of songs.
With a show of 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. That's 2 hours. We do 2 hours now. Let's see. Maybe we do the Springsteen in a few years, But 2 hours seems right for us. And then what to expect is, at the very, very best, you create a sense of connection. You have heard the cliches of without the audience we are nothing, or they bring the show and all that, but it's also true. And there is sometimes that magic that happens where the show is not what happens on stage and it's not what happens down there. There's that electricity between us when you really have come to understand and think about more that sense of connection that you can make when it's really something being done together, when we do our part and they do their part, that I'm starting to find the words for something that was just sometimes happening and sometimes not, and I'm more consciously going towards that. It sounds a bit wishy-washy talking like this, but when you are at a show and that happens, you feel it, and we're chasing that.
Okay, so thank you very much for this interview. So rendezvous on October 31st for the release of Don't Go in the Forest, and see you on stage.
Yeah, on March 7th, I think, in Paris, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.